She's not picking up. I don't know why.
It's not picking up her call.
She's not picking up. I don't know why.
Okay, let us wait for like 2 minutes for her. It's not picking up her call.
She's not picking up. I don't know why.
Okay, let us wait for like 2 minutes for her. It's not picking up her call.
She's not picking up. I don't know why.
Okay, let us wait for like 2 minutes for her. It's not picking up her
Yes,
call.
yeah, she just said she will join now. She's not picking up. I don't know why.
Okay, let us wait for like 2 minutes for her. It's not picking up her
Yes,
call.
yeah, she just said she will join now. She's not picking up. I don't know why.
Okay, let us wait for like 2 minutes for her. It's not picking up her
Yes,
call.
yeah, she just said she will join now. She's not picking up. I don't know why.
Okay, let us wait for like 2 minutes for her. It's not picking up her
Yes,
call. Okay.
yeah, she just said she will join now. She's not picking up. I don't know why. Why is
Okay,
this
let
thing?
us wait for like 2 minutes for her. It's not picking up her
Yes,
call. Okay.
yeah, she just said she will join now. She's not picking up. I don't know why. Why is
Okay,
this thing?
let us wait for like 2 minutes for her. It's not picking up her
Yes,
call. Okay.
yeah, she just said she will join now. She's not picking up. I don't know why. Why is
Okay,
this thing?
let us wait for like 2 minutes for her. It's not picking up her
Yes,
call. Okay, can we start? Hello? Hello, can we start now?
yes, sir. We can.
I'm sorry, sir. I apologize for the delay, sir. Good day, sir.
Okay, no problem. So, uh, last week we talked about importance of collective bargaining, Abby,
Yes, sir.
in the last class. Okay. Today we'll be looking at meaning and bargaining structure. We are supposed to discuss bargaining structure first before we discuss importance of collective bargaining to all the stakeholders in industrial and employment relation. So today we'll be looking at bargaining structure. See, bargaining structure is defined as an organization of employees and employers who negotiate contracts and determine the terms of employment. So, collective bargaining on its own is defined as treaty making, treaty enforcing processes undertaken by some representatives of workers and some representatives of employee with the purpose of reaching an agreement. But however, bargaining structure itself is organization of employees and employers. That is the group of employees, the group of employers that comes together to negotiate that contract and determines term of employment is known as bargaining structure. And it also refers to the location of decision-making power within the bargaining process. So the term bargaining structure denotes a multiplicity of units tied together in a complicated network of relationships by social, legal, and administrative network. So bargaining structure involves a lot of things. It involves the units units of employers, units of unions, government agency that comes together to initiate the bargaining process. So, for instance, when there is need for bargaining in the public sector, it will involve the representative of workers or unions in that public, representing workers in that public sector. The Ministry of Labor representing the government. The ministry that perform oversight function for that particular public sector will also be what? Represented. All these represent a kind of bargaining unit within bargaining structure. For example, when ASU want to negotiate with federal government, lecturer will be represented by ASU, Ministry of Education will be there. Ministry of Labor will consider a bargaining unit as well. Association of Vice Chancellors will constitute a bargaining unit as well. This is what we refer as multiplicity of units that comes together and form complicated network of relationships on social, legal, and administrative issues as it affects the organization. So that is what bargaining structure is all about. And we can went further to define bargaining structure as a broad concept referring to the group or groups of employees and employers who help determine or are affected by collective agreements. So every bargaining process comprises of a particular bargaining structure. Like the example I made just now, the federal government and versus lecturers. So the bargaining structure, the bargaining groups will comprise of ASU representing lecturers, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor, Association of Vice Chancellor, department that oversees Salaries and Wages Commission, National Economic Planning, and any other relevant ministry. So I'll form that bargaining unit for that particular bargaining process. Types of bargaining structure. There are 4 types of bargaining structure. We have conjunctive or distributive bargaining. We have integrative or cooperative bargaining. We also have composite bargaining. Then we have what we call productivity bargaining. What is conjunctive or distributive bargaining? This refers to a negotiation strategies where parties compete to divide a fixed resources. The implication of this is that the gain of one party is a direct loss to the other party at the bargaining table. That is, if union is able to impose collective agreements on the employer, or the employer is able to impose collective agreements on the workers or the union or representative of worker. And what determines how either of the party impose decision on the other party is the amount of collective bargaining power in possession of either party. If the bargaining power of employer is higher, they may be able to impose decision on the employee. And perhaps if the bargaining power of the employees are higher, they'll be able to impose decision on the employer. So in that regard, if the employer were able to impose their own decision on the employee, it means that from that bargaining, from that negotiation, it is the employer that benefited, that gained maximally. And the gain of the employer is a direct loss to the employee. If, on the other hand, if the employees or worker representatives or union has the high bargaining power and they were able to impose decision on their employer, it implies that it is the labor union that gained maximally from that collective bargaining process of that collective negotiation. And in that regard, what the union gain is a loss to the employer. So that is the essence of distributive bargaining. And it is known essentially as a win-lose situation. That is, one party will win, the other party will lose. And that's against the principle of collective bargaining. Because the principle of collective bargaining is that both parties must reach an agreement through a win-win situation, as we are going to discuss in other bargaining structure. Then the next one is integrative or cooperative bargaining. In this bargaining strategy or negotiation strategy, both parties, they work together to find a solution to the situation at hand, and they at times work together in order to increase the size of the industrial cake so that there will be enough for both parties to share, so that both parties can win at the end of the day. And it is essentially known as a win-win situation. For instance, if employers wanted to increase hours of work from 8 o'clock to 4 to 3 o'clock to 5 p.m. And the employee were saying, no, rather than having longer working hours, we should rather have reduction in hours of work. And they were going forth and back in the bargaining process. And they come to a situation that, okay, let us look at what take away productive work hours at the workplace. Lunch hour, hour, if they have majority of, they have Muslims in the workplace, hours for meditation, hour for prayers, hours for social activities or any other irrelevant issue. So they can both come together and say, okay, let us have staff canteen in the office, staff canteen within the premises where we work. Let us have, so that number of hours allocated for break hour will be reduced, because if there's no canteen within the premises, it means that the worker will have to go far or go elsewhere to go and get their lunch. So that is why when you go to all these factory setting, all those manufacturing companies, they have their factory within the workplace or within the premises. So the number of hours taken for break will be reduced. And again, another productivity bargaining issue that can be reached between the employees and employers and labor union is when they decide to have a staff car or a staff bus, when they decided to have staff quarters very close to the premises of the organization. So all this will reduce number of hours taken for domestic activities like school runs or other domestic affairs. So because the working place is very close to where they work, so they can reduce number of hours worked. So in that regard, we call it productivity bargain, because at the end of the day, man hours lost will be reduced. Productive work hours will also that normally that should have been lost will be gained through all those facilities, all those processes that is negotiated and agreed upon. So, and at the end of the day, productivity will be high. If productivity is high, it means that profit will also be what? High. And wastage will also be what? Reduced. So the employees are gaining from that bargaining or from that negotiation, and the employers are also what? Gaining from that negotiation. So, and if productivity is high, it means that profit will be high. And if profit is high, there will be enough for everybody to be shared. It is when profit is high, that is when the employer can now say that, okay, we are giving you 30 months salary. We're going to give you profit sharing. We're going to give you stock option. Those are the avenue with which labor and employer can create productivity bargaining, and that is known as integrative or cooperative bargaining. The third one is composite bargaining. This focuses on negotiation aspect of the work environment. And that goes beyond compensation. Of course, most often, negotiation is always on wage determination, wage bargaining. But there are certain things that are regarded as prerogative of management, and they are known as non-negotiable instruments. All prerogative issues that they are non-negotiable instruments because it is the right of management. The way workers has the right, management also has their own rights, and those rights are encoded in prerogative of management. So in that regard, composite bargaining will enable labor union to negotiate all those prerogatives, all those non-negotiable instruments. And what are those non-negotiable instruments? Job security. It is under that bargaining type that labor can say, oh, how do we assure our member of job security in this organization? What are the steps you are going to take to ensure that we have job security? Company policy regarding hiring and firing is the prerogative for the management, but this can be negotiated in composite bargaining. Workplace discipline is the prerogative of management, but can also be negotiated under composite bargaining. The workplace safety is prerogative of management as well, but that can also be discussed under composite bargaining. So these are issues, all issues outside the normal bargaining issues that are discussed during negotiation are known as composite bargaining. Then you have productivity bargaining. Productivity bargaining and integrative or cooperative bargaining are the same thing. But however, it is a negotiation between employees and employer that aims to increase productivity and employee benefits. And I give example, establishment of staff canteens, staff quarters, staff bus, and so on and so forth. So both parties will gain at the end of the day. Now, components of bargaining structure. Components of bargaining structure, these are essential characteristics of or features of any type of bargaining structure. And the first one is bargaining scope. Bargaining scope define issues that are discussed during negotiation. Issue that is covered during negotiation, and issue that is covered during negotiation are majorly negotiable instruments. Like I said, all non-negotiable instruments are regarded as managerial prerogative, can only be discussed in composite bargaining. But in bargaining structure itself, the bargaining scope cover only the negotiable instruments, and the negotiable instruments are bread and butter issues. Hours of work, bonuses, incentive, maternity leave, paternity leave, site allowance. So they are majorly economic issue, or what we call bread and butter issue. So that is what bargaining covered. And that is what we regard to as bargaining scope. Then the second one is bargaining power. Bargaining power determines the ability of either party to impose decision on the other. And what determines the bargaining power of either party is strike and lockout. Management has the power of lockout, while workers or labor union has the power of strike. So both parties can use the two to impose decision on each other, because it is their power to inflict injuries on either party. So that is why strike, that the ability of worker or labor union to cause damages to the employer in order to force them to agreement. Lockout is also an ability of the employer to inflict injuries on the workers or labor union in order to force them to their own side of agreement. That is why during bargaining, when there is an impasse and workers declare trade dispute and worker goes on strike, management will now declare the phrase or the principle of no work, no pay. This is just to inflict injury on the labor union in order to force them to agree with the management decision. And most often, the labor union will also impose their own principle that no pay, no work. And the extent with which the workers can hold on to the strike will determine whether or not they will be able to impose that decision on the employer. But the ability for labor union to hold on to their strike for long in order to impose that decision on the employer has to do with the union purse. If the union is so rich, the check-up deals, a particular amount will be set aside for strike fund. So when workers are on strike, they will go to the strike fund and be paying workers their actual salary so that the worker can relax and continue with the strike. So when the strike is over, the workers, the strike fund will be deducted from source in such a way that it will not affect the take-home pay of the worker. But if workers are on strike and management impose the principle of no work, no pay, and the union is not coming up with alternative approach, dipping their hand into strike fund to pay their workers, that strike will not last long. The worker will not be able to hold on. So that is why most unions in Nigeria find it difficult to hold on to strike in order to force decision on the employer, because most of the strike funds are mismanaged. The only group of workers that has the longest strike duration in Nigeria that is feasible and measured is ASU and the health sector worker. The health sector worker, for instance, most of them has their own clinic. They have their own small hospital. So if the doctor say they are going on strike, the strike can last 6 months at times, can last 1 year. So they have alternative source of income. To the ASU, what ASU were doing then was, they also has a cooperative society. So while they are on strike, what member of ASU are given access to access soft loan from that cooperative society on monthly basis until the strike is over. That is why ASU is able to hold on to their strike and be able to force the federal government to reach an agreement with them. No other union can do that in Nigeria. And that is why the federal government in Nigeria are not being sincere when it comes to implementation of collective agreement. So that is the essence of collective bargaining power. Now, the next one is bargaining level. By bargaining level, we refer to the level at which bargaining takes place. And bargaining takes place in two levels. We have the local level and we have the national level. So issues discussed at the national level are known as national issues. Issues discussed at the local level are regarded as local issues. For instance, ASU national chapter versus federal government is bargaining at the national level. An issue they are discussing there is known as national issues that affect all university, all tertiary education in Nigeria. At the local level is ASU University of Lagos chapter or ASU Lagos State University chapter, ASU Imo State University chapter with the management of Imo State University, with the management of Unilab, with the management of LASU. Those are local issues. And most of the local issues are not part of the national issues. But most part of national issues are also discussed, are further disintegrate at the national level, at the local level. So those are the level at which bargaining takes place. Then you have bargaining units. Like I said earlier, a union represents a bargaining unit. Employer association represents a bargaining unit. Ministry of all stakeholders, they represent the bargaining unit. when it comes to collective bargaining process. Then you have bargaining issues. I've said under bargaining scope that bargaining issues are issues that we discuss, and we discuss two major issues in collective bargaining: substantive issues and procedural issues. Substantive issues and procedural issues. Substantive issues are the issues of economic benefit to the workers and to the employer. And we refer to it as bread and butter issues. That is, hours of work, pay, incentive, bonuses, all related, or all kind of benefits, both financial and non-financial benefits, enjoyed by an employee as a member of the organization. The rules that determine them fall under bargaining, fall under substantive rules. So you have bargaining issue, you have bargaining rules. So the issue we discuss and the rules that will govern it is substantive rule. The issue is substantive issues. Now, I said there are two issues and there are two rules. The first one is substantive issues and the rule is bargaining rule. The second one is procedural issues and the rule is procedural rules. Now, when you reach collective agreement on substantive issues, okay, salary should be increased by 20%. Well, S1 will be having paternity leave with pay. We'll be having maternity leave with pay. We'll be having bonuses. We'll be having 30-month salary. We'll be having training allowance. We'll be having this extra code, that extra code. Those are bargaining issues. They are bread and butter issues. You've discussed it. You agree on it. That agreement is the rule that it will be implemented. Now, procedural, as you are reaching agreement on that substantive rules, you have to reach agreement on procedural issues. The procedural issue will tell you, okay, this agreement that we reach now, when are we going to review this agreement? How do we interpret this agreement? When are we going to implement? Is it now or are we going to implement this agreement in 2 years? How do we enforce this agreement? All these issues will be discussed under procedural agreement, and procedural rules will also be established to govern them. So it is when all these are done, if either party violated either substantive rule or procedural rules, either party can declare trade dispute, and when they declare this trade dispute, it will be asked by the Ministry of Labor, what kind of dispute? If it's as a result of violation of substantive rule, that is dispute of interest. If it's as a result of violation of right dispute, that is right. If as a result of violation of procedural rule, that is right dispute. Okay. So in that regards, let me use ASU as an example. 2009, federal government and ASU reached an agreement. In 2012, most of those agreements were not implemented, and that is violation of procedural rule. So ASU declared dispute based on violation of their rights. And that is why ASU went on strike in 2012, 2013. And by 2014, the agreement should have been reviewed in 2012 when ASU was still talking about enforcement and implementation. So therefore, up to now, ASU have not talked about review or renegotiation of the 2009 agreement, because as of the time ASU supposed to call for review of that agreement, most part of that agreement are yet to be what? Implemented or enforced by the federal government. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Okay. Do you have any question regarding any of what we discussed so far before we move on?
No, sir, not yet. None yet.
Okay.
Sir, if the issue of the procedural and because you said something now, you said that procedural and substantial procedures. Like you said, the substantial issues they deal with personal interests. And but you said that the so is it that the substantial issues, when they are implemented and they become procedural issues, they become rights?
No.
Okay.
Substantial issue is are independent of procedural issues. Once you reach an agreement on all those financial and non-financial issues, issue of economic benefit to both parties, the next thing is to now reach an agreement on how do you implement them. Are we going to implement it now or in 2 years' time? When are we going to review this agreement? Because when you say salary should be increased by 20%, before you can determine salary increment, you have considered a lot of economic factors like inflationary rate, like purchasing power, like cost of living index. So, and in the next 2 years, you can sit down and say, okay, inflation rate might increase, cost of living might increase. So we come back in 2 years, based on all those factors again, we use it to negotiate wage increase. So that will be that will have been established as a rule under procedural rule. So automatically, at the end of the second year, you must review that wages. Am I communicating? And procedural rule also talk about enforcement. How do you enforce this agreement? Who are the people that monitor the enforcement? So these are the issues that we discuss under procedural agreements. And why most unions are suffering in Nigeria is because of the fact that when they reach substantive agreement, most of them hurriedly, they don't reach agreement on procedural agreement. It is only ASU and the medical doctors in Nigeria that complete the bargaining process. They will reach substantive agreement and they will also reach procedural agreement. It is procedural agreement that the union are using to fight. If you don't have that procedural agreement, you find it difficult to challenge your management because there is no violation if there's no procedural agreement. You'll have stated it that the salary should be reviewed after 2 years. Once you have reached a particular limit at this current bargaining. So you must say that, okay, in the next 2 years, we must review it. If you don't state it, if you don't establish it as a rule, management may decide not to do such a thing until in 10 years' time. So that is procedural agreement and that is substantive agreement. We have substantive agreement as an offshoot of substantive issue or discussion. Procedural agreement as an offshoot of procedural issues and procedural rules. Now, bargaining process. Basically, there are 3 processes to collective bargaining. The first one is preparation of initial demands, 2, negotiations, and 3, settlement. Settlement is all about agreement. Preparation. Both parties will have to prepare their demands. They prepare their points. They prepare their evidences to substantiate the reason why they are demanding A, B, C, D. And for the union, the way we have what we call bargaining list. In your bargaining list, you must prioritize your list. The most important demand should come first. And in a descending order like that. So the least important should come last. So when at the bargaining table, you may not be able to exhaust. If you have 10 items, maybe you stop at 5 items, number 5. So that will have taken care of most of your important item on the bargaining list. But ASU is always making some error. I'm using ASU as an example because a typical union that fought a lot of battle with federal government in Nigeria, unlike many other unions. So the ASU make a lot of error in designing or completing their bargaining list, in the sense that the most important factor ASU will bring it last, and the most irrelevant factor ASU will make it priority. To every worker, to every labor union, the most important factor on their bargaining list are the welfare of their member. But ASU is always saying that they are a socialist union. They don't want to be seen as any other bread and butter union, that they are fighting. What the ASU is fighting for is for Nigerian masses. So issues of salary increments, issues of benefit allowances will come last. ASU will now prioritize revitalization of the university, facilities for the university, structures for the university, buildings for the university. And all these things are responsible of the federal government. They are not doing it, but ASU is making it their demand that go and do it. So by the time they exhausted the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, federal government, the agreement will be exhausted. Both parties will go home. They will reach agreement on some gray area in that, and they will forget about the rest. So that has been happening since 2009 to date. Why ASU were on that verge that, okay, we want to be a union, a socialist union that is fighting the masses of the people. Like, for instance, part of the demand of the federal government is that let us introduce tuition so that we can be able to do all those projects, all this revitalization. As you say that, no, you are not going to introduce tuition because most Nigerians will not be able to avoid payment of high tuition. So while we are doing this, unions in the polytechnic, unions in the College of Education, they are less concerned about the infrastructural development of their institution. They are fighting more. So what they prioritize in their bargaining list are their pay, wages, and salary. So now a chief lecturer in College of Education is any more than a professor in university, because over the year, each time they negotiate the demand for wage increase. And at the point in time, Minister of Labor told ASU, let us forget about all this infrastructural development. Let us increase your salary, and you go home. ASU said no. But in reality, union normally prioritize their bargaining list and put the welfare of their member as the topmost priority on their bargaining list. Then negotiation. You must have some behavioral and negotiation skills. That is why each party during negotiation, they hire labor relation consultants, experts in collective bargaining and social dialogue that will be at the background. So when they go for recess, they go to the consultant. This is what we are going to discuss in the next 5 hours. Their consultant will look at it and give them the response, and both parties will come back again. So there are negotiation skills that you must possess. And that is not part of my brief. I think condition for necessary collective bargaining will be taken by another lecturer. Then the last phase is settlement, which is agreement. And reaching agreement, you must have the spirit of win-win situation. You must have the spirit of give and take. You cannot win all. You have to lose some and gain some. That is the essence of reaching an agreement. And lastly, for our discussion today, steps in bargaining process. Now, the first one, coordinating, preparation among persons responsible for gathering and analyzing information relevant to the bargaining process. So union is like an organization. Union is an organization itself, because they have various people dealing with different areas. They have research, they have experts in labor relations, they have experts in collective bargaining, they have experts on negotiation. So they will bring all the experts together and start working on the bargaining process. Selection of a chief negotiator and bargaining team members. Yes, that is also very necessary. Each party, as a federal government, we have their own chief negotiator. They will constitute their own bargaining team. Also, we have their own chief negotiator, usually the president of ASU, and the bargaining team. They will also come up with their constitute their own bargaining team. The list will be sent across to each other. Then review previous negotiation because it provides insight into the opponent's bargaining tactics and probable demands. So that is also very important. Because that will start as a foundation for the new negotiation, the previous negotiation. So then you have to gather a lot of data, a lot of informations, comparable firms through weight, internal operation policy, and so many other things. Gather information on sales revenue, everything, why they must be able to pay. Money made through oil revenue, money made through tax, why they should be able to pay, and create alternative strategy to why they will be able to pay. It was as a result of information gathered by ISU, taken to collective bargaining table, that federal government established state fund. Because when federal government said, we don't have money to do it, ISU gave them the strategy. Introduce educational tax on all the crude oil they are selling in Nigeria, on all taxable you have in Nigeria, and that money should be sent to TED Fund for capital projects in the Nigerian university. Started with Nigerian University, extended to all tertiary institutions, even some private, some state university also benefited from TED Fund now. Formulate proposal and prioritize. You formulate your proposal. Employer will come with their own proposal. Labor union will come with their own proposal, but you must prioritize your proposal. As you prioritize your proposal on your, or as you prioritize your list on your bargaining list. Then select a suitable site for negotiation that is to be discussed by representatives of two parties. Then organize the relevant information in bargaining book for easy access at the bargaining table. Notify the opponent of the intent to bargain by serving the required notice. Okay, you can come from either party, because once either party sends proposal, the party that intend to negotiate will not send that intent to the other party that, okay, let us discuss on this your proposal, and we are coming with our own counter proposal. So that is bargaining process. These are everything we need to know about bargaining structure. So I'm going to send these notes across to the class rep. Do you have any question regarding all this?
Thank you so
Hello?
much for the class, sir.
Is there any question?
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
You already answered my questions during the class, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can we end the class now?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.